Gosh, dog, this song's a little bit out of place on my fancy playlist I had to refresh my memory when I look over these fancy playlists. And sometimes some things just come out at me like, what's this song doing at number six? What's this song doing at number one? What the hell was I thinking? And at number 21 on my fancy playlist, November 29th, 1986, up four from 25, Stand By Me by Ben E. King, a song that goes back to, it was either 1960 or 61. I'll just say 1961. Ben E. King, Stand By Me. It's a standard from the early 60s. And you're probably thinking to yourself, what the hell is that song doing on your fancy playlist in the 80s? How did that song get resurrected in the 80s? Well, it's from a movie called Stand By Me. It starred River Phoenix. Came out in 1986, and it was based on a short novel by Stephen King called The Body. But the title, The Body, had such a gruesome vibe to it that the movie had a name change to Stand By Me. And the song was re-released as a single. It went to number 9, went top 10 again in the US, number 9 in the States. Went to number 1 in England. In 1986, you gotta give it to the Brits. All sorts of things used to go into the British charts. Some of the songs that went to number 1 in England are a bit questionable, but boy, they had a wide diversity going there. One of the reasons why that song went to number 1 in England was because it was used in an ad commercial, advertisement for Levi jeans, broadcasted in Britain back in 1986, and that was before the movie had come out. So it picked up a lot of momentum overseas in Britain. The first time that song came out in 1961, might have been 1960, it went to number 27 in England. Fast improvement. The song, I did a little research on this record because I've always been a little curious about Stand By Me. Started out as a hymn. It was written by a preacher from Philadelphia. Minister, his name was Charles Albert Tindley. He wrote it in 1905. Song goes back to 1905. It got popular on the gospel circuit in the South. It was covered by numerous gospel groups. The most popular gospel version of that song was done by the Staple Singers in 1955. This was years before they crossed over on the pop charts. That didn't happen until the early 70s. Ben E. King heard the Staple Singers version of Stand By Me, and he was wild by it. He came up to the manager of the Drifters and said, we got to do this song. See, he was the lead singer of the Drifters at the time. They had that hit, There Goes My Baby, in 1959. And Benny King, the lead singer of the Drifters, he came up to the manager of the Drifters. He said, we got to do this record. This is a gospel record that has pop crossover potential. Well, he probably didn't word it like that, but, he sold it the best he could, but the manager of the Drifter said, we're not doing it. Forget it. He passed on it. When Benny King went solo, and this was 1960-61, he auditioned the song in front of two legendary songwriters, producers. They produced hits by the Coasters. They wrote the original Hound Dog, which was covered by Big Mama Thornton. Benny King auditioned Stand By Me in front of Mike Stoller and Jeff Lieber. Jeff Lieber, Mike Stoller. Two prime songwriters back in the 50s. And what he did, Benny King, he did a couple of popular songs, and then he went into Stand By Me, but he didn't know the whole song. He didn't know all the lyrics to it. He did a couple of lyrics, and he hummed the rest of it. Mike Stoller and Jerry Lieber, they were impressed enough to say, hey, let's collaborate with you on this record. And they updated it. The bass part at the beginning of the record, Stand By Me, that was Mike Stoller's idea. They made it contemporary. No songwriting credits whatsoever to the guy who wrote it, Charles Albert Tindley, because it had been so radically changed. But he deserved a little bit of credit, but didn't get it. But the song does go back. The origins of Stand By Me goes back to 1905. It all started out as a gospel record. Charles Albert Tindley could not have imagined in 1905 that this song would become so big in the early 60s and then become big again in the late 80s. He would not have had a clue, understandably enough. There was no such thing as radio back in 1905. Here's Stand By Me by Ben E. King at number 21 on my fancy playlist, November 29th, 1986.